Okay, we were talking about my grandma. Actually, she cried when Ralph went to the service because he ended up having to go. And
And what war was that for?
Korean.
The Korean War.
Yeah, and he was in there for, I don't know. It was I don't even remember. I know he got out in 52, and we were married in 53.
Okay.
But he knew me, see, back from when he used to come into the railroad depot. I probably would have been only 10 years old when he first started seeing me, but maybe didn't even notice me then. I was a little kid. And so then later on, that's how he knew about me. And then as a teenager even, I would go up there and meet my dad. I'd run up every Friday night to meet him. I was so excited. And so he, from there, started coming to the house little by little before the checker deal. And all of a sudden, he starts rabbit hunting with my father around there on Cannon Road, in the field below, and in the woods they would run the rabbits. There was a bunch of them. So anyhow, I ended up being the rabbit. And so anyhow, he got home from the war, and let's see, how do I want to say that? Him and I, this one day, he was around a lot. He was half of the time. And he and myself and him and my dad, we went to Newark in the car with my dad. And he had a car because he had one once that thought he bought it to impress me, and it burnt my legs, and I hated the thing. The heater was so hot. Big old fancy car, and I liked that little old Ford he had.
The things they do to impress us. Huh?
So anyway, on the way home, we had parted in Newark and done different things, all three of us. And on the way home, he pulls out this ring. He didn't even wait till we were alone and give it to me in front of my dad. And we had talked about marriage, but never said yes yet, you know. And I remember we had a wood burner stove. And I remember when the first time he mentioned marriage we was in behind that stove. And why, I don't know. And so he pulled that ring out, and of course, I guess he couldn't wait or something. I don't know. So anyway, there was something else.
So do you think he talked to your dad first?
I don't know.
You never found out?
No.
I just wondered if they had a conversation first, so your dad probably already knew.
I imagine either that or they just knew, because if my dad didn't like him or want him around, he wouldn't have let him come all that time.
Right.
So, but he had the right formula, the rabbit hunting, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's see. Then I'm probably missing something, but we were married in September 27. My birthday was the 14th of September. We were married on September 27th. And I remember that I was going on my senior trip that year, and he gave me that ring, I know, so that them boys wouldn't hit on me. And there's one that did, and he didn't know that I was engaged in my class. And he said later at a reunion, damn, he said, that's why, he said, she wouldn't pay any attention to me. So anyway, then of course the joys of your life begin. I had my first baby boy, and then 2.5 years later, a baby girl, and then around 7 years later, another baby girl. So there's quite a span between the last two. And but you know, and I remember I was so excited to get a little baby. I remember kissing the doctor. I was that happy. So anyhow, see, it's hard to believe that it's been 60 some years, but I am so thankful that my parents raised me the way they did. My dad was pretty strict. He didn't even want me to go to the square dances there in the street in Fredericksburg, but Mom coaxed him to let me. And at that time, we didn't get to do hardly anything. Then, gradually, I don't think I've told the story about being shy and just didn't want to do nothing. I fear people would laugh at you if you made a mistake, that kind of thing. So I would say to everybody, I should have used this earlier and didn't have sense enough. I sent for this thing, my mom it was a magazine calling all girls. And my mom gave me the money. In the back of that book, she let me subscribe to it, and in the back of that book it said how to be popular. Well, I didn't want to be popular like some of them other girls, so I sat and got that thing, and it come in the mail. Back then it was only 5 cents, 10 cents, or a quarter is all you paid for those things. And all it said was smile and speak to everybody you meet. And I started doing that in the hall at school, and I can't believe what it done. And I ended up being a majorette. I ended up being homecoming queen of Fredericksburg. And I know it all stemmed from that. And I did take public speaking because I knew I needed it. But the first time I did it in the gym of the school, oh my goodness, the auditorium had the kids in the class and other people. I just wanted that floor to swallow me up.
Mm-hmm.
But I continued with it. I ended up being a speaker in the Prince of Peace contest, and I ended up going to, I spoke in Granville, and I remember I had a bright purple dress on, and I remember Ralph was there, and then, but I lost at the state level. There was only one more step. No, my children, as they grew up, I became a Tupperware lady, and I was there for a Tupperware lady for 24 years, and then I stepped over to House of Lloyd and Christmas Around the World and switched companies because I could give more to my hostesses, like free merchandise. And then I did enjoy Tupperware, but I earned a lot of stuff. I earned, my first thing was a stereo thing. I ended up earning, through the years, I've earned all of that stuff. I earned that complete bedroom set in there in the bedroom. I earned a electric stove. I earned a refrigerator, a dinette set. I think I earned 2 dinette sets. I think I gave my parents one of them. And just odds and ends, and so, but that's beside the point. But I mean, it was just, the kids might not know that, so I'll put it on here.
Mm-hmm. And you got to travel a lot.
Oh my, well now that was in House of Lloyd.
Okay.
When I switched over, let me see here. Would you grab that thing right there?
The picture?
No, that medals that I got. And that tells me, these are my trips that I earned. And by the way, they were free. I checked out of the hotel in Hawaii. She said, "How did you do that? With no money."
No doubt.
No penny to pay. And I didn't tell her. I just shook my shoulders. But I had bought my snacks outside where it was a lot cheaper. I guess that was my first trip out, so I wasn't aware that I didn't need to do that. So then I went to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, Alaska, Caribbean cruise. I was supposed to go to Spain in 1991, but there was some reason, I guess it was my aunt, my mom's sister, I was taking care of her, and I couldn't go. So, and then London, England, Acapulco, I took my daughter there, Sharon, and I was going to take Jody somewhere, but he said they'd go sometime together. And so, anyway, Sharon and I remember we had in the restaurant, they had these big sombrero hats and guns, and Sharon and I act like we were shooting. I got a picture of it, of one another. And we were on a bus, and it had been shot, the windows, with a gun, bullets, and it was kind of rickety, and all of a sudden, I starts reaching in the air. And I said, Sharon, do you see those cobwebs? Oh!
Come here, baby. Come here, silly. They don't want to see your booty.
She said, you're losing your mind.
Come here, baby.
Go. So she said, you're losing your mind, and we got tickled. And here there was nothing. I had a floater from not wearing glasses enough in that hot sun. So when I come home, I got it fixed, And so anyway, that was a fun time with her. And then I went on an Alaskan cruise, which Ralph got to go. I did that once.
That's fun.
Actually, I got 2 on there, 90 and 94. And the one, we were all packed and ready to go. And I don't know which one it was, and they said that the ship had broke down and we couldn't go, so he gave us the money. I think it was $2,000, the man that owned the company. He said, and one time I talked to him on one of these events, and I said, I want to thank you, Mr. Lloyd, for letting us have the opportunity to earn all these trips. He said, same thing, he didn't say it in those words, but it was like, I don't want to hear it, you earned it. That's the words he said, you earned it. And so then I went to Egypt and Israel in 95, and we, of course, I went to the King Tut tomb, I went, I wasn't going to get into this early.
It's okay.
Let's see. Oh my goodness. We was on a bus, of course, a tour bus, and I had, at that time, I had something wrong with my leg, probably that same one, and there was one of the head women in the company, which I had dealings with her through the business, and she and I both had a problem, so we went back to the bus early, and the driver was in it, and I wasn't aware, that they had a compartment underneath where they have refrigerators and stuff. I didn't know that. Maybe they don't here, I don't know. But anyway, we got on the bus, and I was the first one on, and she went downstairs to the bathroom. And while she was gone, we talked about just nominal things, and he said, I have a wife in New York City. And I said, oh, you do? And so on and so forth. I don't remember what all we talked about, but there was always a couple laggers behind, and we got the bus all filled up pretty much, except those 2. Well, but I remember I was sitting on the end aisle with an older lady, and it was my good friend's aunt. And that guy, when we were talking, they always ask you, all these guys, if you have daughters. And of course, I told him I was dumb. So anyhow, he said when somebody else got on that bus just before those two laggers, he said, "I'll give 2,000 camels for that one." And he pointed at me. About died. Still the shyness a little, see, coming out.
Yeah.
And he said, 2,000 gold camels. Oh my Lord.
And you didn't know what that meant, but that didn't mean anything good.
Well, no, I knew he liked me. I didn't want that. So anyway, later on, of course, they had cold drinks, but hot desert, and so he was bringing some containers back and went downstairs. I had to go downstairs. There's nowhere else to go. And then pretty soon, about the time for him to come back up, I felt this presence, and he was right at my ear. He said, "I'll marry you all." Of course, I never had to see him again. And so then, but it's stuff to laugh about now. And I had my teeth. My daughters, both of them will laugh till they nearly wet themselves about this. And when I come home, I told Jody I had left something there. I don't know. And I said, "Get your stuff packed. We're going to get married." She said, "We'll go on." And then I was traveling. The friends picked me up when I went to Brazil. I was alone, and I had just had surgery. And Ralph said, "Just go and enjoy yourself." And when I come home, he had filled out more papers where I had just earned another trip, and I didn't think that happened. So when I got home, I had another trip coming. So anyhow, he told me to enjoy it. So I met these people from Washington State, and they insisted that I run around with them because I was alone. And we become friends for the rest of the duration, and after we both retired. And so anyway, I'm going on about Egypt. Her and another friend of hers and I went into this shop, and I'm not kidding you, they probably were only about 8 to 10 feet wide, and maybe just not very long either. And they had this one where we were in, they had a like a card table set up with T-shirts and stuff for sale and whatever, and it was pretty well barren in there other than that and a few people visiting. And so I was on one side of that room, and then them women was overwhelmed with these T-shirts to buy some to take home. And I said, "Lee," because this guy was aggressive at me, a young guy, and he started putting his body up against me, and I was getting mad, and I started to run. He grabbed my arm. I just left the two women and ran to the bus.
And that was in Egypt.
Yeah. I was going to report him, and they told me that he would lose his job. Of course, I don't remember.
Well, maybe he should have.
Yeah. And so anyhow, that happened, and then, we went in this, there was this one guy he kind of was hitting on me in a good way, and of course, they always want to get out of there and come to America. But he acted like he was falling in love with me.
Mm-hmm.
And we were seated at the head table, or captain's table on the ship. And he was one of the waiters. I got pictures of him and his friends somewhere. And he would bend down and smile at me when he'd be waiting. And then there's still one more, but anyway. He was, so anyway, I had snacks and stuff when I left that I couldn't bring home. That was our last day. So I left them with him, And him and his friend, they say, I said, if I go to America, what would you like to have? Blue jeans.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get them, I suppose, over there. So I sent them, and they got them, because he corresponded for a little while. And he said something about, do I have husband? I said, yeah. He said he was a Coptic Christian. And he said if they find out, they might kill me. You know, any Coptic Christian.
Yeah.
And so he said, is husband good to you? And I told him yes. He said, you know, like, well, stay with your husband then. He kind of backed off. But he was a handsome sucker. Ooh. So anyhow, he had told me that he had, he was sick. And then when he come back on a ship, or on a waiting thing, he told me that he had asthma, and being on that water all the time, he said his family was very poor, which I'm sure, and he had to make money to help the family. So anyhow, that's a story that's over with. But anyhow, they got the blue jeans, and I one other time sent a shirt with, I think, $5, which would be triple that over there.
Yeah.
And he never got that. They confiscated that at the border. So, of course, I quit writing to him, of course. But anyway, then another time we was in this, they let us out, and you can stay all day, and a cab driver will wait as long as you wait, if it's all day. And so anyhow, again, he asked me if I had daughters, and he wanted us the bunch of us that was in his cab, to go to his house for tea, I think he said. No, we didn't. We couldn't anyway, because we had to be back at a certain time.
That would have been a real bad idea, I think.
Oh, my land. So anyhow, let's see. Oh, we went in this one shop, and Lee my friend, was buying gold, her and her husband. He was the only man in the group, and then we had 3 other ladies, I believe. Either 2 or 3 more, I don't know, counting me. So when I go in, this one, he grabs me by the arm and starts kissing up and down my arm. The funny thing is, I had gotten new teeth. And I thought the teeth was causing all that. But of course, they'd never seen me without teeth. And I said, I'm going to throw these suckers away. And so anyway, we go in there, and he sets me down on this little thing, and my Lee was looking at, I think, some goldy stuff or something. And she said, well, why am I doing all the buying and she's getting all the attention? So I laughed, and then we got out of there, and then when we go out this, and it's a long, long way out this, it's like a little market or something, and down this street, and some man stopped me, and he said, here, I want you to have this. And it was scarabs. They're like a bug-like looking thing. And I said, I don't want no, I said crab. I think, because I didn't know at the time what it was. And he said, no, I want you to have, be good luck. You no buy anything. See, I thought he wanted me to buy it at his shop. So I took it, and I brought it home. I don't even know where it is anymore, but it was, I found out what it was. So we go on out, and starts out to the end. I've got a picture of this too, and one of the ugliest dudes. Well, as I was walking out, that one guy, he had to be an Arab or something, because he said, come stay with me. I said, I can't stay with you. And then I went on out, and we were taking a picture of all of us in our group. Well, all of a sudden I'm standing there, and the ugliest thing you ever saw hopped in beside me. funny, and it startles you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so anyway, that was the fun things that we look back and laugh our heads off. But anyhow, of course, I went to um, the pyramids, of course, and all that. King Tut's tomb, I already said that.
What do you think about that? How do you think that stuff was built?
Oh my! You
in your
can't
head,
understand how they
yeah.
could get so high with the
Without
stuff
machines.
to make it stick together. Yeah. And the hieroglyphics, that is just phenomenal. And you wonder where they got the coloring. Like I know that there's one plant that I know does purple, and I suppose that the green would have been chlorophyll, but who
Berries,
knows how they got that?
anything, yeah.
And just unreal. And then I'm going to jump back to London. Of course, at London, and I have a picture of this, but see, I've got to find some of this stuff in all that bunch of pictures. Of course, I got to see Big Ben and that cathedral and Windsor Castle. Windsor Castle. And then that place where the crown jewels are. We didn't go in. I wish I had of. That's the only thing I wish I had have done and didn't. So anyhow, Mr. Lloyd hired, well, I'm getting back, no,
That's
I'm getting
okay.
back to London now, or back to Egypt, but I'll get back to that. But anyhow, he hired we saw Queen Elizabeth's band and the people with the guards and all that
King's
kind,
Guard.
and the big bus, the double bus, all that stuff. So anyhow, this one, Mr. Lloyd, you had to earn the right to get all this stuff and be able to even go. So anyhow, he hired Queen.
Your medals in front of your face. There you go.
he hired part of Queen Elizabeth's band to play for us in the International Museum.
Wow.
The food I thought was aristocratic and not too.
No.
I like the down home.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, they played for us, the band, and that night, my friend Lee, we saw one of the guards there at the museum, and she asked him, she said, "Is Princess Di going to be around here anytime soon?" And he said, "Don't you dare tell us anybody else, but she will be here tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock to dedicate a dinosaur to this museum." And he said they will lock the doors at 10 o'clock. After she gets in, there'll be nobody else get in.
Nobody in, nobody out.
So her and I and one other person, we got on a bus, got up and got on a bus and went over there. And I remember on the way over seeing Alma Street. I remember that, of course. And we got in there, and sure enough, they locked us in. And we couldn't get out or go nowhere for the whole time she was there. So Lee somehow got a copy of the menu that Diana was going to eat that day. But I don't know what she ever, of course she's out there. But anyway, so Diana, I was about from here to you to her. She came out, we seen her go in, but we seen her come out too. When she came out, she had a guard too, of course, but I was so cool. She had the two boys with her. They were like, not Harry and him, they were not very big. Well, I shouldn't say that. Probably, I'm going to guess 10, 12, somewhere in that age range. But when she went out, the guard didn't even need to be there at a certain point. She walks out down this way and down the aisle a ways to go out, and she stopped and went over to somebody in a wheelchair. She was that that way.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, I saw her real close and so on. Then I was going to jump back to, I don't remember, I got to jump back to Egypt. Mr. Lloyd also hired, yeah. He also had a thing that where we earned it. We had to earn, like I said, everything. So this aunt that was on the bus with me, she was in the same. Her and I was kind of paired up. So, oh wait a minute, let me think about something real. Oh, I got to put this in before I finish this. She went. We went up in the. Oh shoot, not the leaning. Is it leaning?
The Leaning Tower of Pisa?
No, what's the one in?
Eiffel Tower?
Yeah, that's the one. We went up in the Eiffel Tower, and those French people are really mean.
Yeah.
They still have a grudge.
Mm-hmm.
And them women, I only took that aunt. She was older, about halfway up. I said, "No, we're not going any farther," because one of those women from over there shoved her down in the seat. And I said, we're going to go back. We're not going to go any farther, but we did go up halfway. So anyhow, and then we went into a restaurant in France, same place, and they still had a German Shepherd guard dog in there, like from the old war times. And so we were sitting there, we'd ordered our food, and it came, and all of a sudden, Vince, that was Lee's husband, he started to take a bite, and this German Shepherd stuck his head up right close to his plate. And then we got tickled. It didn't take it. And so, anyway, then, my food was cooked like bloody. Ugh.
Oh, rare.
So I didn't know how to speak French, so I went.
Take it back.
And they did. And then to go to the bathroom, you didn't know what to say either. So I went this way.
Yeah.
And they understood. And then let's see, what else was it? Oh, the toilet tissue over there. Ours has reduced in size, but I'm telling you, and they only give you 2 squares. They were handing it out as we went in. I thought, why bother?
Did you get more if you had a number 2?
I don't know. I doubt it.
Didn't ask, did you?
No. So anyhow, let's see. Egypt. Oh, I know where I was. So Mr. Lloyd, he hires different things for different people. So he said that we had a special event this one time, and you could either go by camel, by horse, a horse-drawn carriage, or I forget what the other one was. Well, I knew Auntie couldn't ride a camel, which I did ride a camel over there. And so, anyhow, we get in this horse-drawn carriage, and I was having a ball. And the sand, of course, was loose, so the carriage was kind of swaying a little bit. And Auntie knew me medium well, but I'm telling you, that guy went lickety-split. He was going to our destination and where the surprise was. And he said, I went, yeehaw. And he said, you have fun? I said, yeah. Mm-hmm. Auntie said she was scared to death, and while she was talking, the sand was cracking in her teeth. And she said, you don't have sense enough to be afraid. You didn't know me very well. So those things I always will remember. Oh. So anyhow, that was pretty much, Oh, and when we get out there, he had hired to have the food delivered in a tent on the Sahara Desert, a mammoth tent.
And you didn't have no sand in your food?
No.
Good.
I think he probably had something underneath the table area. But he done the doggone stuff for us. It was wonderful.
That's awesome.
And he and Dave Longaberger knew one another because they would go to these different meetings for corporates.
What was his name?
Harry Lloyd.
And he was the owner of
House of Lloyd and Christmas Around the World, two
House
different
of Lloyd
branches.
and Christmas Around the World. And they did like decorative stuff
Oh,
or Tupperware
well, no Tupperware. Tupperware was
first.
the separate thing
Okay.
that I did, and then I switched over to this House of Lloyd. Yeah, they did home decor, like home
Okay.
interior. They did Christmas.
Is that where you got this mirror up here?
No, this mirror came from a finger hut.
Okay, you know those are really sought after? They're worth a bunch of money.
I wasn't surprised, and where I got this idea, Watts in Utica, which is my favorite restaurant,
Uh-huh.
they had these in a little bit bigger size on their walls, and I just adored them. And I've had that for, Lord, 20-some years.
Yeah, those are really sought after. I don't know why exactly.
Well, I don't think you ever see anything that big
Like
and quite the design.
Yeah.
And that's what attracted me was the design of it.
Yeah.
So I just love that thing. So.
Yeah, those are worth a lot of money.
And now we're going to jump over to Israel.
Okay.
And this friend Lee and us, we went to the Wailing Wall together. And we didn't know at the time that you put papers and stuff there. But I think she was a good person, but I think it turned her into being a Christian, I think. Because of things that she would write to me from Washington State. I could just tell there was a little bit of a difference. She was not a bad woman anyway. She was.
So when you met her, she wasn't practicing Christianity, or?
I think it was more Catholic, where there was
Okay.
a lot more, what do I want to call it? They give them leeway, which I don't think Jesus would say that, like the drinking and, I mean, it's not, to me, drinking is not any worse than me getting hooked on Coke. You gotta have sense enough, like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the
No,
day
I was like, what? You know about cocaine
the
mythology?
time has changed. I forget that.
No, I think you're right. I think that Jesus brought the wine to drink and enjoy. I think drunkenness is a sin.
Yes.
I think to do something daily is a sin. So I agree with you. I think that Catholics are a lot more lenient. I think some of them lean more towards just living the way they want and then asking for forgiveness later.
Yes.
So I get that.
And you know, a lot of times, this hasn't anything really to do with that, but a lot of times people will ask for help from God, and then when they get it, they forget all about they ask Him, and they never thank Him at all. And that's one thing that's really a bad thing to do. I thank Him for stuff He hasn't done and things He's going to do with me. I know He is. I have had this personal relationship for, I don't know, I had to grow and grow and grow. From the age of 15, I was baptized. But you know, I had, I don't know, probably upbringing, you know, and I didn't have all the problems that kids have today. And so therefore, I've been so fortunate. And people sometimes think that life with God is ucky and sad and not exciting. Well, life is what you make it. Your altitude determines your attitude. Or attitude determines your attitude. And then another thing that I've learned through life is, and I really come up with this at I was speaker at our alumni banquet from the school. And it's not who you are or what you have, it's whom you've become.
Mm-hmm.
And I stand by that one. And then when I die, I'm going to hang on a while.
You better.
Living for Jesus is a song that I want. I mean, it's not, in a way, I guess you would be my favorite sayings, because it says, living for Jesus, a life that is true, striving to please him in all that I do. And then I can recite the whole thing. But you know, it says put Jesus first in your life. And it says do not be drunk to wine. It says things like this in the Bible. And if you follow that Bible, it's a road map to your life. But nobody hardly has that, knows that. They don't even think it. They think of it as, oh, I want to do my thing, you know. And it's not always their fault. And I mean, well, they have a choice, and God gives them that.
Very well.
But for different reasons, it's so hard for some people, and a lot of them anymore, to not live with somebody, do the drinking, do the coke or the drugs, which mine was Coca-Cola, and so on and so forth, you know. And I, again, have thanked God many times for letting me escape all of that. And I got my kids, I feel, and I've told them that, raised in just the nick of time. Of course, they had stuff like that way back, the drinking more than anything. But you see, the reason as a teenager and school, I never had that desire, because I would see, I had a cousin who was a drinker on back a ways, and I would see it, the heartache. It didn't just hurt him. I mean, his wife or whatever.
Everybody around him.
Yeah, that loved him. And if they didn't give a darn, then it didn't matter. But most of them, so I don't mean to get into that one.
No, it's okay. You can talk about whatever you want.
But anyway, I just never, I would see the hurt that it caused the little kids. But you see, what's already done is already done. And I know in my heart that today's age, single mothers hunt for somebody to shack up. Oh, I shouldn't say it that way.
It's true.
For a roof over their kid's head and theirs, and food on the table. And I understand that. I mean, it's not right, but I know why they do it.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? We've got somebody in our family right now, and then we've got one that's going to get out of prison for the drunkenness. And I love her dearly, and it was all, see, that's why I say about drinking, but see, that's something that hooked her. And she...
Down a path to nowhere is where she
ended.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's, I mean, I'm so sorry that it happened, but I can't do nothing about it. But I guess she's going to get out. She's doing well and saved up a lot of money from working. And
good.
It was a family that she hit. And it was her third incident. And I probably shouldn't have put that on there, but...
It's okay. You didn't say any names or anything. So
no, I'm not. So, but I just want her to know I love her dearly, and I'm so glad for...
Yeah, I think
change.
Sometimes God thinks we need a timeout, and that's what prison is.
Yeah, it saved her.
Yeah.
It's I hope saved her, yes.
You know, people say that jail is terrible, and it's not, that they treat people inhumanely in there, and part of that's true. But the reality of the situation is sometimes God puts you right where you need to be to learn a lesson.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, and that it's sad. A lot of people, you know, don't think that they needed that lesson, but I think sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah. So anyway, I still have this thing that I'm going to commit myself, so I'll work harder on it. It's like things that in my life, through all the years as I've grown in the Lord, has brought me closer and closer and helped me with my life. I'm going to write these things out, specify them.
You should.
And the scriptures. I want to do that, and maybe that'll keep me alive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because it took you a lifetime to learn that,
Yeah.
and it could be very beneficial to somebody who wants that information. Yeah.
I don't remember if I told about back home. I'm skipping clear back there when I was a kid. About pulling up hay and being a.
You
I
did.
I
Yep.
thought I did.
You
Okay.
did cover. I mean, you covered how hard you work, and you covered. Your dad didn't have to go to work because he was flat-footed.
Yeah.
So we talked about that. We talked about your couple childhood homes. But yeah, we talked about baling hay.
Yeah. Okay.
With a horse-drawn carriage at that.
Yeah, horse-drawn. That was right. There's so many things that I talked about high school. Oh, I was gonna about high school. When all this transaction came of my being less shy, I was downstairs. I was still in the shy mode, and it was after I got the pamphlet and started practicing that. The school, we were sitting downstairs in the basement. It was the cafeteria at the time, and this schoolmate came up, and he's come over there to where I was sitting. All the kids was around me. He said, not my kids, the school kids. And he said, Alma, you got homecoming queen. And he was always the jokester of the class. And I said, I did not. And he said, yes, you did. And I had. And they had voted, they just didn't vote for some of them other girls again. They voted for Carolyn Graham, Wayne's wife, Carolyn Spencer it was then, and Shirley Dillon. She lived over here in the field. We were the lesser popular, whatever you wanted to call it.
That's okay. Sometimes those girls need a win too.
Yeah. So that's how that happened. I remember him coming down there. I thought for sure he was acting stupid.
Boys will be boys.
Oh, he was so doggone ornery, even to his death, which was just a year, not even a year, I don't think it's been.
That's how my grandpa was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ornery in the dickens. I
Yep.
know. I remember that.
Yep.
So I'm saying, let's see, Israel. When we first went into Israel, I remember in Egypt, it was one of the two, which was probably the same trip. It was weird. One side was desert-like, and over here was greenery on it, the different sides of the plain. It was kind of weird.
Yeah.
And then I think about Jesus and Mary, or not Jesus and Mary, but Joseph and Mary, when it made me think about them having to walk all that way on that terrain.
Yeah.
That awful rocky.
Sandy.
Yeah. But you don't think about that stuff till you
see it yourself.
Yeah. I always have been fascinated by that. And then they served communion. We was in like a place off the ground, and I don't know what you call it. I don't even know how we got there now, but you'd overlook this place, and there was that gold dome that you see on TV. And we had communion there. I remember that. And I don't know. And then the Wailing Wall, that one I may have to pick up on later, because I didn't get in that area as much as some. I'm going to have to get some of these off of here now. After my marriage, I'm just going to jump.
You're fine. You can just jump all around.
After my marriage, of course, I had been taught to cook. And I loved baking and cooking. Happened to love it. And I was just cooking up a storm. And I remember, again, this is not in the realm of that, but my first car Ralph bought me was a blue Fairlane Ford.
Ooh.
And I remember that. And then, of course, we lived in my parents' house for a little bit, and then we was in his parents' house for a little bit, and his dad helped build the little house that's on the corner, and then that's where we lived. And I one time lived over the railroad tracks there at Black Run.
Okay.
There was that Charlie Hamby store, and it had the post office in it and all kind of stuff, you know. But I lived across there. I remember that we had some dogs, not as many as we normally did. And I would go out there, and the feed was in the building, one little building outside, and there was rats, and they were trying to get that food, and they just give me the willies. And so I would shoot them. Go out there and shoot them. And then we had, of course, our first child, and he was a boy, and then I had the two girls later. But anyway, I had this little canary bird too in there. It was in a cage. No, not a canary, it was a parakeet.
Okay.
And so we would leave the cage open when we were there and the doors were shut. And so anyhow, one day, well, of course my son was walking good and everything and talking a little bit. And I could not find the bird. I moved the refrigerator out, I did everything. And he would say, never do it again, never do it again, never do it again. Here he had, I suppose you know how something soft to squeeze, and he had killed it and didn't realize it, but when it wouldn't move, he had sense enough at that little age, he put it under some kind of a item,
hit it.
Cloth under. And I can't believe that he had that much sense that little.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was one thing that happened there. And then we had a cat. And I would iron Ralph's, at that time, his National Guard uniforms had to be starched stiff, and they would actually stand
up by themselves.
I hated that. Oh, they were hard to do. You'd have to dampen them, and then I'm sorry, I coughed, and there goes my nose. My nose runs sometimes, but anyway, and then that cat would watch me iron, and it would get up, and the TV, it would get on, at that time the TVs was bigger, it would get on top and take, like at cartoons, it would try to get them off the TV.
That's funny.
Yeah, and so then eventually that got so that they stopped that starch, and it went for years, and it was the hardest thing. I hated it. I think it's one of the worst things. And I don't mind ironing either, you know. I'm sorry.
You're fine. Don't worry.
But anyway, we lived in that little greenhouse. You want more loving, no more.
Yeah, she said I've had
Sit
enough
down.
time not getting love.
Okay, you're a good girl.
You want to be in the video. You can be in the last 5 minutes.
So anyway, we then moved from that house. No, we moved to Frazeysburg down across from the hut, or beside it.
Okay.
And when Bob was born, it won't matter, we had to move from that house because the basement was full of water. And it was too much moisture to keep a baby in.
Yeah.
So we had to move from there. But let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is just something about when I was still at home and on Cannon Road. We had a big willow tree. And I don't think I've said anything about it, did I?
I don't think so.
Anyhow, it was mammoth, and my dad eventually, a few years later, had to cut it down because it was going into the water that we had to use. But anyway, that thing was so beautiful, and that was my playhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get under there, and all them branches, you couldn't see in or out, and I would take I had cats. At the time, I think I said that about Hillbilly Park.
I don't think you said on the video.
Okay. So anyhow, there was a place called Hillbilly Park where, close to us there, I went as a teenager week after week. But anyhow, it had the big stars in there and ball stands and food and everything. But anyway, under there was a couple. I'm sorry. I'm okay. So this couple came in. Back then they were real popular, Lulabelle and Scotty. So I named two of my cats that. And so I put clothes on them and put them in a buggy, and they'd stay. And so that's part of me remembering that. And I loved it. And then when I was at that house, I had a room upstairs in the back room, and there was, this was clear up till I got married, and I would love to hear the rain on the tin roof.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it, and then I could hear the trains going down the track and blowing the whistles. Which I still can do that a little bit. So things like that. And then I remember we had a girl stay with us once. And I forgot about this one. And her and I slept upstairs in another room. I slept beside her. I was probably 10, I would say. And I got up in the night. She was asleep. And I got up in the night, and I wanted to scare her. So my mom had this black ointment. And I smeared that all over my face and then woke her up. But I was the one that got the short end of the stick because that stuff wouldn't hardly come off. She just scrubbed and scrubbed. Oh,
probably some kind of charcoal or something.
Oh, yeah, it was terrible.
That's what you get for being rotten.
Oh, my goodness. Now, I'll hit the Buddy Davis story next time.
Okay.
But I'll hit on it just a little bit now. Ralph used to work in the ball stand down there for Ed and Millie Ruton, who owned the place. And that's before I ever knew him. And so anyway, yeah, there I go. She's sidetracking me. I'm losing it.
Buddy.
Oh,
you were talking
yeah.
about Buddy.
So Ralph knew the owners, like one-on-one, so he got Buddy. I went to my cousin's house up around Martinsburg, Ohio, every so often, once a month, I think, to get dog food, flat off of the dog food truck.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, that particular day, my cousin said, Now I want you, next time you come up here, to listen to this kid sing. And I thought, oh, just average run of the mill, because he knew I liked country music. So anyhow, I did listen, and I could not believe he was about junior in high school, I think, at the time. And I couldn't believe how good he was. So it was good enough that I took Ralph back up that very weekend, and we listened to him again. So Ralph got him on at Hillbilly Park, and he got a standing ovation the very first time he performed. And then, never thinking, I kept following up, and I become like his manager. And then another kid, a friend of his, wanted me to do him too. I said, I can't do that because I got kids, 2 kids. So anyhow, it was Buddy Davis. So through the years, I would be at their house a lot, and his mom and I got to be real good friends. And she had my Jody's first birthday party at her house. And of course, I would take Buddy, her and I would take Buddy and go to different places, like Cincinnati on TV to the Gene Richards show. And then we would, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Ohio, different, and then around here.
Yeah.
So